I started skydiving in 1959. I was 19 years old, and I started in a town way south of where I lived. I had to hitchhike down to jump there, and I did the basic jumps at Camden in Australia. It was style and accuracy, and I had 50 jumps, and I was competing against military guys who had 400, so I didn't expect to win the competition, become Australian champion, but first competition, things turned out well for me.
How well?
Very well.
Did you win?
Yes, I came.
Oh my gosh, that's fantastic. That's wonderful. And so then did you go on and continue competing in style and accuracy? And then did you move on to another discipline?
No, I had to stay in the competition realm in order to come overseas to compete in a world competition, which was a few years down the road. And in between time, I got into relative work, and my partner and I, my jump partner and I, were the first to make a successful baton pass in Australia. So we were more excited about that than winning the competition. I took first and he took second in the competition, and then within a few months we made the first baton pass in Australia.
Well, one of the other firsts I'd really like to talk about, because I know everybody is anxious to hear your quick story, is about your very famous book, Sky's Call. I do believe that was the first free fall photography book that was ever published. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
And when did you publish that?
The first was called Sky's Call. We had, that was 1974, and we hadn't anticipated ever doing another one, but when that demand came up, we then had to think of another title, and my wife thinks of titles, so it was called Sky's Call 2 in 78, and then in 2000 we had Sky's Call 3. So the 3 books were done in that decade, and we had 150 photographs in each one. At the time that we made the first relative work, the first time humans flew together in Australia, it was obvious to me that no one else out of 10 million people had seen what I'd seen, and it seemed important to, it was important to me to take those images down to the ground and show people. And while I had to stay current in competition in order to come overseas, my heart was in the imagery side for all that time, which was 6 years leading up to the first book. So it was taking pictures and getting ready. And then seeing we had the pictures, it seemed like a good idea to make a book. And it would just be the one. That was the intention, it would just be the one. And those 4 years were the most intense and draining period of my life. I thought I was worn out at 34. The decade between the 30s and the 40s are when you're the best mix of experience and youth. That's why the best bike riders are in their early, mid-30s, athletes and so on. That's when, if you're going to do anything, that's the decade you'll do it. Look back from the pioneering time through all the evolution and developments that happened, and that was the decade of the 60s. The 60s, yeah, in the 60s we just had flat canopies with holes cut in the back, and then we went to Paracommanders, which won the world competition. The pulled apex, flattened the canopy, cut down the frontal area, and they could fly faster. People could land upwind, which we could never do before. And then by the end of the decade, squares came out, and then you could do everything. These things fly at enormous air speeds, and along with that came the 3-ring circus and the piggyback.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Chris Fucci with the U.S. Special Operations Command Parachute Team, the
revolutionary changes in parachuting happened. Since then, we've just had small but important decreases in weight and sophistication. But all those major events happened in 10 years.